The reason I started playing competitive video games is because I played them casually and I found it a lot of fun, so competitively was just the next step. I prepare for tournaments by practicing with the team and playing by myself. Usually to train, I click on circles in a separate program, and that gets me warmed up to go into the game and start playing a few quick matches to get ready. Usually I can handle the pressure pretty naturally because I've played the game for so long, but uh, sometimes the reason I do lose games is because of the pressure, and it's a big factor. To stay at the top of my game, it's mostly just making sure I consistently play the game and trying to improve whenever I see I need to improve. A lot of people think that mechanics is a big part of being good at competitive games, but what a lot of people don't realize is that game sense and game knowledge actually is a huge factor in what can be the difference in a lot of games. Usually to create a balance between gaming and non-gaming, I just make sure I have enough time set aside to do whatever I need to do, and then I just use whatever free time I can to play. If you want to get into competitive gaming, it's not as hard as you think. It's just dedication and having the right mentality for it. The competitive gaming scene has evolved in a lot of ways, actually. When it first started, it was more of just like a bunch of people getting, or two teams getting together and just playing the game and trying to win. And now it's evolved to two teams playing together, but there's millions of people watching and even millions of dollars on the line for games. Obviously, it depends on the game, but in games that require teamwork, it's almost always the most important thing that there is. Most of the time, defeats are actually better for learning than wins are because we can go back and look at everything we did wrong and then fix those things for future games. I think sometime in the not too far away future, I think competitive video games will be just as popular as competitive sports. A big part of competitive gaming that people might not see is that being friends with your teammates and knowing them outside the game is actually very important for team chemistry. I think gaming affects my mental health in almost exclusively a positive way. It helps me have a kind of release from the stresses of the real world or something fun to do, and it's just a really great pastime. I think competitive gaming, for the most part, relieves stress. Obviously, there's some times where if you lose a competitive game where it could be stressful or make you angry, but for the most part, it's a net positive. There are some other negative effects besides just getting angry when you lose. I mean, sometimes it can cause you to get less sleep if you stay up playing too long, or stress you out if you forget to do something. So there is definitely a negative side, but it's all about checks and balances and keeping yourself in line. Yeah, there have been a few times where my team and I have won a game, and it gave me an extremely good mentality for a while, where it's just I felt on top of the world and I could accomplish anything. I think overall, different genres of games affect my mental health just about the same, but there are some little differences just depending on each individual game. Yeah, I would say social aspects have a positive impact on gaming. The effects of your teammates and having fun with friends that you like to play with definitely outweigh the negatives that could be somebody talking bad about you in the chat or something like that. I would say besides in the actual games themselves, it does reduce my stress levels. When I'm in like a one versus a bunch of team or like enemies, it can make me stressed in the moment, but I think having that outlet really does de-stress me most of the time. There was a time about a year ago when I noticed that my grades were kind of struggling, and it wasn't necessarily because of video games, but I noticed that cutting back on video games and kind of limiting the amount of playtime did help me kind of get back my mental kind of fortitude and was able to get my grades back in check. I think one thing that's really important to remember with toxicity is ultimately you're just looking at pixels on a screen, and what they're saying really has no impact on your life, and they're just saying it to try to get under your skin. So don't let them.